for a second here again and stop the share. Scott is actually getting the chat questions together. So if you've got a question on movement, for example, or on the future sections of this session, send it into the chat, and Scott's going to facilitate that, and we'll try and cover as many questions at the end as possible. So. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. This is not as easy moving from screen to screen as I would like. So, nutrition. I can't tell you how many books I've read, how many research papers I've poured over, how many seminars I've been to on nutrition. And diets just abound. And if it's not paleo, it's interval fasting or intermittent fasting. It's the South Beach diet, you name it. And the one thing I've learned is that one size does not fit all. But putting some basic guidelines around your nutrition is a good thing. And what I've turned to is actually looking at the blue zone. And it's not really a diet. It's actually the commonalities between these places that are pretty disparate. You know, you've got California, Costa Rica, Italy, Greece, and Japan. And I think we'd all agree that they share different culinary tendencies. So what is the diet that provides the greatest health benefits and in turn, in this case, longevity? And the Blue Zone diet, as is described by Dan Buettner, who headed up the Blue Zone study for National Geographic, it's a focus on non-red meat protein. So it doesn't mean you can't have red meat, but just limit your red meat. A focus on healthy fats, complex carbs, and maybe limiting intake. So this nutritional sort of bent that the Blue Zoners all share across the country, across the world, is really, oh, shoot, I am not sharing screen. I apologize. Chatting away. Okay, that's a bit better. So the commonality, in fact, I'm going to go back and just show you the
He didn't share.
Zones. There we go. Is that better?
It's not showing.
Still not showing? Okay. Is that sharing now? Still not? Bear with me, I'm sorry.
Now it is.
Thank you for letting me know. How's that?
You got it.
That works.
Great. I apologize. Thank you for letting me know. So I was saying that the many diets that I've previewed, you know, there's so much really conflicting evidence, to be honest. And when you look at the blue zones, as I described before, and you look at how disparate the people are that are across the world, sharing some commonalities and how they do improve their vitality, health, and longevity, it's probably worth looking at. And I've been looking into this a lot, and it ticks most of the boxes. In fact, it actually joins in the latest research around nutrition and diet. And I pointed out, you know, low red meat content, but still having some meat protein in terms of fish and such, and white meats, healthy fats, complex carbs, and essentially less is more. So the 5 pillars of the Blue Zone nutrition I'll go through, but it's essentially based on a small amount of animal protein and avoiding processed foods. The first, you know, pillar or the foundation is obviously vegetables, and then fruit, and you move up through, and we try and avoid the sweetened processed food. So that's, you know, your healthy diet pyramid we're probably mostly familiar with. But if you look at it in sort of more specifics, think about range of color as well. And I'm not talking artificial colors, I'm talking natural colors, you know. So fruits and vegetables that have a high level of color actually typically have a lot of benefit. And you look at the variety of benefits across this rainbow of fruits and vegetables, and you can see everything from preventing ulcers to preventing cancer, cell renewal, all the way through to healthy heart, improved eyesight, healthy bones, and all of these things we want. And we know that, you know, fruit and vegetables generally have these properties, but variety is a really important part of this blue zone sort of formula. And if you look at those pillars that I mentioned before, you know, it's the base is whole grains, greens, tubers, which is like carrots, potatoes, nuts, very nutrient rich, and beans. And again, if you look at those on that rainbow, you'll see that the benefits of these from a health standpoint are huge. And does that mean that, you know, this is all you eat? Absolutely not. You know, what it means is try and introduce more of this into your diet. And that's really the key, from my perspective, is, again, incremental change, trying to introduce maybe some more greens into your day, or some more fruits into your day, or add some nuts in as a snack instead of crackers. And these simple changes over time will make a huge difference. Also, in terms of vitamins, I'm working with a gentleman. He's a scientist and very, very smart guy. And, you know, he'll tell you, as you probably know, a lot of vitamins don't end up in your system. They end up down the drain. You best absorb vitamins through your food. And this chart, which I'm happy to share this with you, either through Scott or myself, I can put it up on my website. Even the previous chart as well, you know, you put that up on the website as well. This one. And they're good things to put on your fridge, to maybe as reminders of some of the things that, you know, maybe I need to, you know, shop for a bit more of this, or instead of, you know, grabbing that maybe soda out of the fridge, you know, grab that healthier snack. So eating your vitamins is really important, and getting them in your food, you know, means that absorption is much higher. So when you think about it, movement, food, hydration, sleep, you know, all these things all benefit health, vitality, and longevity. I'm going to talk about a couple more of those things as we go. One of the things I did mention was intermittent fasting. And I don't know if there's anybody out there that's tried it. It can be tough, and it's hard to set up you know, an intermittent fasting schedule. And some of these schedules are, you know, 3 days off food, and then, you know, you eat regularly again, and all sorts of different ones. The ones that the blue zoners typically adhere to is just a shortened eating schedule. So most of the blue zoners eat for no greater than about an 8-hour period. So they might not eat till mid-morning, and then they might finish eating mid-afternoon. And they have a 16-hour period where they're not digesting food, but they are drinking water and sleeping. And that 16-8 eating schedule has been shown to be really beneficial. You know, truth be told, that's really hard. So we went out for dinner with my wife last night for her birthday. That's not going to work. So again, if you want to try this and you do it most of the time or some of the time, be forgiving of yourself. Just know that it's really hard to do this if you've got business dinners, or, you know, you've got a long trip and you're not going to have a chance to stop and you need to eat early. You know, really mix it up and understand that, you know, it's done is better than perfect. Getting something done around shifting your schedule a little bit, tightening up your eating schedule may help a lot. It actually has been related to weight loss, increased vitality as well when you do something like that 16-8 schedule. So there is value in it, and that's been proven. So just reaffirming this, and I'll come back to this probably again, is, you know, if you're going to transform some of your habits, you need to be forgiving and understand that it's a process. So a really important one is hydration. And obviously we know water is sort of the foundation, but whoops, one too many. I suggest, you know, obviously drinking water regularly throughout the day, even have a glass of water when you get up. Coffee has water in it, but it's also a diuretic. So when we drink coffee, we're actually reducing the amount of hydration our body has ultimately. And so does many sodas, caffeinated sodas and such. And there's so much debate around water, or around hydration. My son, loves to have a Powerade or a Gatorade, and to be honest, it's probably no more beneficial in general than water itself. I really encourage people just to drink more water, plain and simple. I've been experimenting with something that I'd read in a research paper about hydration and dehydration. And when I get tired now, instead of going to the coffee pot, I actually go and grab a glass of water or two. And when I rehydrate, I actually find that I rejuvenate. So I get that sort of, and I'm going to say energy burst, but I recover my energy more when I drink water. And I don't have the downside of it afterwards, where I sort of slide down that slippery slope again so quickly. So hydration is really critical to the energy that we have and the energy that we maintain. So try that as an experiment. Next time you're really tired, think about grabbing a glass of water or two instead of grabbing that energy drink or that coffee. And you might find some surprising results. And on the topic of alcohol, there's been a lot of studies that show that alcohol actually has benefits in moderation. The latest research actually says that's probably more related to community. It's more related to how we drink alcohol. If we're having a dinner with friends and we're drinking a glass of wine or two, that community is actually the thing that they're finding is more the central thread to the benefits of having a glass of wine or two. I'm not saying don't do that though, as in have a glass of wine or two. I'm actually, I think it's a good thing to relax sometimes. So community, just to piggyback on that, when you think about community, Ralph and Libby, had an abundant community. I encourage you to have in-person social interactions wherever you can. And obviously with COVID right now, this picture's somewhat irrelevant, unless that's your family and you're living in a home with them. But as much as possible, I'm encouraging you to think about this in an analog perspective. So again, go back to the workplace. Oftentimes I'd have a question for somebody in an office, office a couple of steps away. I'd get up from my desk as often as possible and walk around, and I'd lean on the door frame. I could be 10 foot away today and still have that chat. So in-person social interactions are far more valuable than the digital exchange. Also, I really strongly encourage you, if you've got people working from home, to consider the social isolation this is creating. And this is a really important point. A lot of the CEOs I work with, a lot of the executives I work with, this is one of the concerns that's coming up from their people. It's one of the concerns coming up for them. Social isolation is the equivalent of smoking or obesity, like in its impact on your health. So we've got people at home working by themselves in many cases, or in a very limited family unit. And it's a critical time for us to come up with methodologies to include them and make them not feel that isolation. And I've got a lot of suggestions around that, but I won't get bogged down in it today. But it's really important for us to continue to create community for our team. And just talking about, community and social interactions, the introvert is probably going, I'm not, the big social gathering guy. I'm not really talking social gatherings. I'm really talking about connections. There's a misnomer, around introverts not liking people, and that's absolutely not the case. Introverts just tend to have a small cadre of close friends, and extroverts tend to have a larger group of maybe not as close friends, and still some close friends, of course. So, I'm not suggesting that you have to, be in a large social group to get the benefit that comes from reducing social isolation and creating community. What I'm suggesting is that we need to have contact with people. We need to be in touch. And close friendships, are a really important part of that, and nurturing those is critical, particularly in these sort of times. And one thing I'd encourage you to do, and I talk to my kids about this all the time, is think about the friendships you have and the ones that are really benefit you and benefit them. So I don't want to sound selfish, but it's really important to surround yourself with people that have really good positive mental outlook, that are ideally healthy in what they do and their outlook on life and business or whatever it is. And you know, being selective is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's not a bad thing. So I'd encourage you to think about, you know, those healthy and mindful relationships you have, and try and, you know, build on those and try and encourage those. Fun fact, if somebody is overweight or hangs out with 3 friends that are overweight, for example, there's 150% chance that person will be overweight. So what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying choose your friends by BMI. I'm just saying that there's actually who you hang out with has an impact on you in many, many unseen ways, subliminal ways. So hanging out with people with a positive outlook will actually help you have a more positive outlook over time. So if you're a realist, and, you know, I've got friends that are realists, and I say that in that they call themselves a realist. I'd say their glass is half full a lot of the time. It's good to hang out with some people that have a glass is half or half empty. It's good to hang out with people that have a glass is half full outlook, and sort of get that broader perspective. Just talking about environment too, your work environment. This is my home office. It's a little messy. I apologize, but try and, you know, get environmental things around you that bring positive thoughts to mind. That crystal ball you might see there, I bought it, and a friend bought one in Singapore many, many years ago. And our theory was we were going to communicate across the Pacific. That obviously didn't work, but it's a fun memento. And, you know, having books around you that you have enjoyed or use, images of your family. If your work environment is sterile, that sterility is actually going to have an impact on your outlook. Had a close friend, he was our head of finance at a company I was running, and his office was really stark. And I encouraged him to put up some paintings, or, you know, put up some images of family, or, you know, just do something to, you know, spruce it up a little bit for his benefit, but also for his team's benefit. Because if your team members come into your space and it feels warm and inviting, that makes a big difference. And he did that, and it was really significant for Tom. You know, he saw a difference in how he felt in that space, but also how team members felt in that space. So the physical environment you create around yourself is really important, and shouldn't be minimized. So one of the last things we're going to talk about is sleep. I'm a zealot for good sleep. And there's a lot of things you can do to encourage getting a good night's sleep. And the temperature of your bedroom's one. It ideally should be under 70 degrees. It sounds cool for some, but a cool space with only ambient light, great mattress, low noise, not eating, you know, too late in the evening, not looking at a screen too late in the evening as well, or taking stimulants. You know, like my kids on occasion will, you know, want to have a cup of tea late in the evening, and it's got caffeine in it. It's like, no, you know, that's not a good thing. So think about, you know, your formula for sleep. I actually work with a number of CEOs that have worked with a number that have been sleep deprived. I work with one currently who has been suffering from sleep deprivation around what's going on with COVID. And we've been working on some of these factors, you know, how we can improve the quality of his sleep and the length of his sleep. He was getting under 5 hours of sleep a night. It was really impacting his demeanor, his performance, the way he's been perceived by his team. He was becoming paranoid. I mean, I can't overemphasize how much sleep can impact you. You know, I'd also encourage you to think about, you know, with, for example, your bed, buy the best mattress you can get. You spend a third of your life in bed. So, you know, my wife and I, we have a sleep number bed. The reason we do that is that she likes a softer bed. I like a harder bed. We both can have our cake and eat it too. But spending a lot of money on a mattress might seem like you know, a waste of money in some circles. To me, it's the best investment you can make. And the other things that come with sleep deprivation, if we're not sleeping well, is it will impact your immune system. Memory loss is a very real factor. I worked with a CEO, and, you know, his memory really was failing simply because he wasn't getting enough sleep. Depression, paranoia, compromised performance, all those things come with sleep deprivation. So think about your sleep. Think about the little things you can do to change, you know, the quality of your sleep. One executive I was working with, you know, he had some noise factors in his community, and he introduced some white noise into his sleeping space. So he introduced a fan, and that made a big difference. Look, whatever it takes, but really, look for some quality sleep. And one of the ways that I've helped many execs actually develop good sleep habits is actually just introducing daily meditation to them. Meditation is not about stopping your thoughts, it's about observing your thoughts. But in observing them, it's about actually bringing them into focus and actually getting them out of your mind at various points. And when it comes to sleep, if you have practiced the meditation, you'll find getting to sleep's a lot easier. If you're like me, my mind's running 100 miles an hour all the time. And when I get into bed, I need to slow it down. I need to put the brakes on. And meditation is a good tool to train you to actually get control of your thoughts. And that brings me to the last topic, and that is mindfulness and purpose. The premise of the Affinity Principle, the book that Scott mentioned, my book that it actually gets released next week. It is about, mindful leadership. And the reason I focused on that is I feel like when I've been at my worst, has been the times when I haven't really been present, when I've been so absorbed by all the cacophony of stuff happening around me that my purpose hasn't been clear and my presence has not been, clear either. So one of the things, and let's start with this, is, what is your why? What is your purpose? And how much do you have that in focus? And how much are you keeping it in focus right now? It's pretty troubling times sort of balancing all this up. But, we've got a lot going on, when you think about body, mind, spirit, and having a focus on purpose is hard when, a lot of these things are out of balance. So in terms of mindfulness, think about observing your actions, think about identifying the negative things and subconscious patterns that are cutting into, your ability to be present and your ability to really focus on the things that are really important. And some of this, relates very much to prioritization as well. So in essence, I'm suggesting be present, and that will bring mindful leadership to the fore. We've all, found ourselves driving down a street and we don't even know how we got there. There's a lot of activities that we do that we turn over to our subconscious. And, when people say that you only use 10% of your brain, you're actually using a lot more than that, but it's a subconscious. It's taking care of everything from breathing to, the basic functions that go on, and also plugging in anecdotes from your past that inform your actions. So this mindlessness that comes with not being present actually allows your subconscious to run wild. And that can be really unhealthy in terms of how we react to things and how we act. So, if you're in meetings with folks and you're not present, you can rest assured that they're aware of that, even if not consciously. And so one of my encouragement or piece of encouragement to you as a leader is whenever somebody comes in the office or you're in a meeting, put the phone away, step away from your laptop, and try and really be present for those people. And when you're looking them in the eyes, you're connecting with them and truly listening to what they're saying, the value you get from that, and in turn, the value that they get from that, is incredible. So I just want to quickly talk about, the subconscious mind. It's an incredibly powerful thing, and it informs us in many ways. And if we want mindful interactions, we really need to not let it take control. And this sense of purpose will help give you some focus that will allow you to bring this, I'm going to say, presence into the fore. But importantly, it's that focus that you show and that drive that you have for that horizon, and yet still being present with those people in the moment to help exact that vision. A lot of times as a leader, you've got to look at the horizon. And in turn, you still need to be present here with your team. And in terms of guiding them towards that, your presence in the moment with them will help them get there. But it's going to, again, be that incremental thing. So focus on your purpose, Maybe use meditation as a tool, to help you get more present. Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now. It's a great book. He's hard to listen to if you listen to the audio book, but his point is amazing. That when you are really present and you're not living in the past or not worried about the future, you're really present with people. It's amazing the connection that you'll make. And meditation is a way to help do that. It helps you observe your thoughts. It helps improve your self-awareness so you can pick up on those times when you're not really paying attention. And it also will lengthen your attention span and reduce stress. A tool I use, I'm not a regular meditator. So here I am saying you should meditate. I'm not saying you should, it'd be great if you could do it daily. That'd be wonderful. But even doing it irregularly will help. But one of the tools I use is I focus on a task. So let's say I've got a task. It's, okay, simple example, peeling an orange. I want to peel that orange, or that's a mandarin, but I peel an orange and I use a knife and I actually trim around it so that the skin stays in one piece. And that seems like such a simple thing, right? But the focus that it takes to do that and to achieve that is pretty significant. It's not something that you can do just subconsciously. And I like to do that because it allows me to focus my attention. And in these days when you've got so much coming at you, even 10 seconds or 15 seconds or 20 seconds of focused attention, if we can train ourselves to do that regularly with just simple tasks, it'll actually spin into your normal day. So that's a tool that I use. And again, I am a great proponent of meditation. I don't exact that as regularly as I'd like. My wife meditates for half an hour every day and you can see the benefits she gets from it. So I try and do it as regularly as I can, but I try and find other ways for me to really to be focused and present. One of the ones I do, and I've encouraged my kids to do this, is make eye contact. Particularly when you meet people, but maintain eye contact. It improves your attention. It helps show your intention, and it definitely improves comprehension. So just connecting with people by looking at them while you're talking to them, particularly when they're introducing themselves and really listening for their name. But as the conversation goes forward, if you stay connected with them visually, you'll find that your ability to comprehend what's going on, particularly the nuance of what's going on, is much more powerful. So, in terms of refining your purpose, I have a suggestion, and it's a blue zone thing. In Okinawa, the Okinawans have a thing called ikigai, and it's their mantra, and it's living with purpose. And they have 4 elements to it and 4 questions. And those questions are: what do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can you get paid for? And if you want to help a team member find their purpose, or if you want to refocus your purpose, or even just check in on your purpose, make sure it ticks all 4 of those to a lesser or greater degree. And obviously this Venn diagram sort of shows there's intersections there, and there's intersections of passion and mission and vocation and profession. Ikigai is a great tool, I think, for focusing your sense of purpose and really working out, is that presence coming because, you have this sense of purpose that's driving it. And I'll share, again, this presentation with Scott or anybody that wants it. But that Ikigai principles are a really cool tool. And it's one of the things that the Okinawans ask very early in a person's life is, what's your Ikigai? So in terms of focusing your purpose and practicing being present, I encourage you to do that. Take a little bit of time out. And that ability to focus these things and actually build your ability to connect with people and to really be conscious of what's happening around you will actually reduce your stress levels. Because stress most often is fear. And the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And isn't that the truth? 9 out of 10 of the things that we fear usually don't come to pass. We have fears surrounding what's happened. We have fears surrounding what might happen. But when you're present, those things dissipate. So that practice of being present means that you are letting go of things past. You're not stressing about things that might happen that probably won't. You're really focused in the moment. John Maxwell talks about the pinnacle of leadership, and in that he says people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. That's the pinnacle of leadership. He has 5 tiers, and the top tier is this. And what is so critical about that is that people are looking at you and seeing who you are as opposed to what you've done for them or what you've done for the company. And I've seen that in companies that I've run. I've seen that in companies that I've worked with. When the leader is really present for their people, when they're taking care of themselves as well as taking care of their team, as well as, you know, being mindful of, you know, family and the revolving sort of slideshow we have in life, you know, with things like COVID coming into our lives, when they see that leader leading with presence and purpose, they will follow that person. They'll follow them over a cliff. And that's Maxwell's point. And it's a, you know, great adage. So just to recap, we are a little bit over time, and I'm sorry, Scott. The first one is movement. Move often, vary the intensity, keep it fresh, mix it up. Number 2, nutrition. Focus on proteins, healthy proteins, you know, limit the red meat. I've been a voracious red meat eater in my past, and I've shifted away from that significantly, and I definitely feel a difference. Healthy fats, complex carbs, so not a lot of refined food. And the trick is eating at the bottom of the food chain, so stuff that's not highly processed. Community, build community. Look for positive influences around you and around the team you lead. Purpose, get that ikigai going, and it's those 4 questions are just brilliant. So maybe use them in the context of doing a self-evaluation, or even helping a team member understand their purpose. And the last one is presence and mindfulness. And, you know, I am an advocate of meditation, but I'm also a huge advocate of focus, you know, of really focusing on the task at hand. So with much gratitude, I want to thank Scott and the team at Virginia CEOs. They do a tremendous job. I was a member of a forum for a long period, and it truly was an amazing experience. I'm no longer the CEO of the company, and I am, you know, doing more travel than I'd like. Certainly, usually not so much today. But the Virginia CEO Forum is an amazing resource, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate Scott and the team. So thank you, Scott. Scott mentioned the book, The Affinity Principle, actually gets released next week on Amazon. It's coming out black and white, color, Kindle, and there'll be an audio book in a couple of weeks. I've got to publish the book before I can do the audio book. There's a couple of QR codes here. If you want to join my mindful leadership community, it's a lot of free resources. There's no cost to it, and also have some, you know, courses and workshops if you want to check those out. So I appreciate you guys listening. And at this point, I turn over to you, because one of the Scott's mantras is, you know, let's have some interaction. So probably not as much interaction today as I would have liked. But let's see what questions are out there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, we got 8 or 9 minutes here before we have to wrap up.
Thank you.
A couple of some questions, some comments. Joe commented his takeaway: simple things done consistently produce big results, which is, boy, that's something we all search for. A question from Henry: any guidance for launching programs at work that are likely to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about fitness.
Yeah, so this is a lot of what I've done, is set up corporate fitness programs for companies. And again, one size doesn't fit all. The one thing I would say is probably don't put a gym in. And as counterintuitive as that might seem, such a small group of people will use it. Things I've done that have been really successful is create access to walking trails nearby. You know, get people together that are like-minded, you know, encourage people to form little groups, maybe a walking group, for example. You know, there's so much you can do in that realm, but, you know, the biggest thing honestly is education. so if you look at the insurance industry, they've sort of cottoned on to those people that have a really good health IQ. So they really understand what promotes health, what benefits, you know, good health and vitality, things that we talked about today, for example. Those are the things that encourage people to be more active, or, you know, or be more cognizant of the intrinsic and extrinsic benefit. And the insurance industry has determined that those people are the people that will live the longest and live the healthiest. So they will actually give you a lower premium. There's a program called Health IQ. They'll actually give you a lower premium if they know your knowledge around health and wellness is good. So the one thing that I've found, and this is sort of the point I'm making, that really helps team members is helping educate them, give them exposure to what does good health look like, and what are the things that, you know, they could do both at work, you know, to take better care of themselves, but also at home. Most of it's going to happen at home. People don't typically like to exercise at work because they're already there 8 hours a day. So my advocacy, my one takeaway would be get some really good quality interactions and education for them, some resources, and there's a lot out there.
Good. Another comment, Fred said the pandemic's made his gym require that you pre-register, make an appointment to work out, which was a pain, but he said it's turned into a benefit that he sort of is committed and has to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hadn't thought about that. It's a great point, Fred. I'll point that out to some of the club owners I work with.
Tom says, reading a book called Grain Brain, which discusses the negative effects that gluten has on the brain, potentially leading to dementia and or Alzheimer's. This guy, the author of Grain Brain, advocates a keto type diet without gluten. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, good point. The challenge with gluten, or, you know, a lot of the grains, is that they're oftentimes treated with glyphosate. So glyphosate is Roundup. And so particularly up north, they'll actually spray a crop with Roundup to kill it so they can plant another crop, so they get a second crop cycle. And Roundup's used on Roundup Ready grains as well. So you've heard of Roundup Ready, you know, wheat or corn or whatever. And so what happens is there's an immense amount of glyphosate used in the farming industry, and that ends up in grains. And then when we absorb the grains, the glyphosate actually damages our gut membrane. And so as that membrane gets damaged, it's your barrier, and you have a brain barrier as well. So in actual fact, a lot of the gluten intolerance that we're seeing today is actually more related to the chemicals that are being used in the grains themselves. A solution, can I promote a product? It's not my product. I have no interest in it.
Sure.
There's a product called Ion Biome. It used to be Restore, and it's a company I used to run. But that product actually helps restore the gut integrity and therefore the blood-brain barrier. So gluten intolerance is actually more that your body's not functioning properly, less about the actual grains, because 40 years ago there wasn't a lot of gluten intolerant people, and this phenomenon is really a function of just chemical farming. So but if you have gluten intolerance, yes, avoid grains. You know, you have to reduce the amount of grains. Try and eat organic where you can. It's not the only solution, it's not the perfect solution, but it helps.
Beth asked, is it not true that we need to eat something first thing to get our metabolism going? Yeah,
so, you know, this intermittent fasting thing, I've railed against that because I don't like fasting. But the science shows actually that, you know, that it's not necessarily the food that gets our metabolism going. It's actually a lot of times movement, certainly hydration. You definitely want to drink some water, or, you know, have something to drink, you know, in the morning. But if you feel like you're one of these people that maybe is hypoglycemic, you know, you definitely need a little bit of food to get you going. Sure, a piece of fruit, whatever. And that 8-16 ratio, as powerful as it is for weight loss and the health benefits, it doesn't work for a lot of people. So again, I say, you know, take the path that you can manage and sustain.
Very good. Beth also asked, does seltzer water count as hydration, or does the carbonation ruin that?
I'm going to say that I don't know the exact answer to that, but I drink a lot of seltzer water because there's no artificial flavorings, there's no artificial sweeteners, and I enjoy the carbonation. It doesn't seem to have a negative impact, but that's anecdotal. I don't think the carbonation impacts it. There's a lot of water in seltzer, and I find it's a refreshing way for me to get some more water in my diet.
Good. Bunny is asking, any other books other than The Affinity Principle to start on this journey or parts of this journey?
Hi, Bunny, by the way. So I read a lot. Blue Zones, that's a great book. You know, it's really interesting. It's actually interesting because a lot of stories, you know, it's National Geographic project. I find watching documentaries too, you know, learning about, you know, red meat and the cycle of, you know, I'm going to speak boldly here, the cycle of destruction that creates in the environment, you know, can sometimes push people into that framework that I'm suggesting. So I'm just suggesting read more around what's going on with our food, I think particularly, and as it relates to exercise. Again, I don't know of a great book out there that sort of, you know, expounds on what I'm suggesting here, because what I'm suggesting is more, it's less about a particular workout and more about those incremental things. But that's my next book. So, Bunny, if you want to wait a little bit, my second book to the Affinity Principle is actually Affinity Principle for Exercise or for, you know, movement.
Very good. Do you have any thoughts or experience around accountability partners or other structure that increase follow through?
Yeah, I mentioned this in the chat, Scott, and it truly is one of the easiest things to do is to choose a good accountability partner. So in some cases, I'm an accountability partner for CEOs as their executive coach or their business coach. And, you know, and they pay me for that, right? But you can definitely find people that are in your network that are friends, that are looking for a partner, you know, to do something with. But again, it's like when you play a game. I used to play a lot of squash, and I'd always try to play a player better than me, because when I did that, my game went up. And so always try and pick somebody, an accountability partner that is maybe more resolute, more disciplined, more focused than you are, and that'll help a lot. Yeah.
Terrific. We're at the end of our time. I got one more question, but I'm going to go ahead and launch this brief poll to gather your feedback on this session. So do that while you're listening. Amin asks about an author, James Nestor, advocates the importance of breathing through the nose and learning some breathing patterns and techniques. He's been setting reminders to do it a few times a day, and it's helped. Any thoughts on breathing? Meditation is all about breathing, right?
Well, it is. You know, it can be a real focus on breathing. So, for example, people might have heard of the Wim Hof method. That's a breathing technique. It's sort of a hyperventilation technique, but it's got some really good research behind it, and that is really conscious breathing. I think conscious breathing, almost in any form, is really powerful. It does help you focus. It definitely helps oxygenation in your system. I'm working with a group right now that's setting up a hyperbaric center, and, you know, learning a lot more about oxygen and breathing in that process. And you're spot on. You know, that mindfulness around breathing is really powerful. Whether that's a particular technique like, you know, breathing through your nose, or, you know, timing your breathing. So the Navy SEALs, you know, one of the things we'd use, or was used by the SEALs, was a 4 in, 4 out, and a very slow, deliberate break. So, you know, it's like that conscious breathing will actually reduce your stress significantly. So if you're at work and you're like, I'm losing it, you know, that 4 count breath in, 4 count breath out, 2 or 3 cycles, and you'll go, hang on, whoa, what happened? And, you know, it'll definitely shift your nervous system significantly. So breathing's, I should talk about it in this talk. I'd like to add it. I knew it was over time anyway. So anyway.
Well, we're at the end of our time. Thanks everybody for joining us or participating, especially Grant. Thank you for bringing your years of experience and expertise. I I've got a bunch of notes and things to talk about back at home and implement. So we'll share out the slide deck soon, and be on the lookout for the Affinity Principle at Amazon in a week or so. And thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, God. Thank you, everybody.
Right.